If you want to grab the Arekkz Gaming Festive Jumper or the limited edition pins, they're all live right now over on our store. All the links to all the products are in the description box down below. Hey, what's going on guys? Arekkz here. Welcome back to another video for Borderlands 3, and today I want to take a look at all the legendary items that you can get from the new Maliwan Takedown. Now to be clear, there's a load of loot that came as part of this recent update. Some of it is exclusive to the Maliwan Takedown. There are 4 different weapons and 4 shields, and there are also some items that are exclusive to Mayhem 4. Now some of the Mayhem 4 items can be obtained either in the Takedown or from some of the other bosses in the world. So for the purpose of this video, I am purely focusing on the 8 items that come exclusively from the Maliwan Takedown. These can also be farmed in Mayhem 3, so if you guys want them, you don't have to be playing on Mayhem 4, you can simply dive in, complete it on Mayhem 3 or the other Mayhems, and you get a chance to get in these. You can snag yourself some new items and get some of those fancy new legendaries. So, with that being said, let's turn our attention firstly to the weapons. Now, a couple of these I've also spoken about recently in videos, you may have already seen them, but let's start with a weapon called Moonfire, which is actually really cool. This one is actually kind of like a little sort of nod to Destiny. Now, I appreciate, just before anyone kind of jumps down my throat, I know Borderlands came first. Borderlands is the OG looter shooter, but they already did put a Destiny Easter egg in this game when you found the ability to kind of go and get a ghost over on the moon, and they've done a couple more in this recent update. There is a gun called Good Juju, which is kind of like a reference to their bad juju, and the Moonfire is effectively Borderlands' version of Hawkmoon. Now, if you guys have played Destiny, you'll know that Hawkmoon is a gun that has a perk called Luck in the Chamber, where one of the bullets in the magazine randomly has a chance to deal more damage, and that is effectively what happens with Moonfire. The red text says "Meet your destiny," which again is a very clear and obvious nod to the game. It's a Torg weapon, and the main perk on this, or the main behavior, is that every third shot is amped. So unlike Hawkmoon, which is just a random chance, this one is more predictable. It has 8 rounds in the magazine, and every third shot is amped. It has quite a lot of good damage, has some decent accuracy. This one rolled with 45% critical hit damage, 82% weapon damage, 69% projectile speed. It also happens to be anointed, and it says on action skill, the next 2 magazines will have 50% additional incendiary damage. So that in itself is quite nice. But behavior-wise, it is just a heavy-hitting pistol with every third shot being amped. It's not the fastest firing thing, so especially if you go from using something like Queen's Call all the time, where you're used to kind of spamming out bullets, then it is a little bit slower, but as weapons go, it is pretty cool, and I just really appreciate it as a, Destiny player as well. I do appreciate that nod. If you do want to get this yourself, this has a chance to drop from Wotan. Most of the weapons in Maliwan Takedown drop from the final boss, from Wotan, so basically run through, farm him for your chance to get this gun. Moving on from there to the second weapon, this is one I spoke about the other day, and that is of course Kibsworth. This is a really, really good SMG. It's a Maliwan SMG, so of course that means it does have the added benefit of being able to switch between different elements. You can get this in different configurations. Mine has radiation and incendiary. Paradise Central, our teammate, has got one that is corrosive and cryo, so both pretty potent combinations. But the main thing for this gun, the main behavior for this, is that when you kill an enemy, it has a chance to spawn a healing aura. Not even a chance, it will guaranteed spawn a healing aura every 10 seconds, so obviously if you kill things too quickly you won't see them all the time, but it spawns a healing aura, drops down on the ground, and if you stand in this, it actually heals you for quite a sizable chunk. Pair that with the fact that this is actually just a pretty strong SMG. I've been using this again, I've mentioned before that this has actually now become a kind of a core part of my loadout. I actually like using this quite a lot. Radiation is just a really nice element anyway, and I've been getting a lot of great mileage out of this, both in Mayhem 3 and in Mayhem 4, so I do just like this as a gun all up. Plus the added healing bonus, obviously you're not necessarily going to use that as the primary reason to grab the gun, but it is nice to have. So, healing, SMG, good damage. This again also comes from Wotan. As for your third gun, you have Tiggs's Boom, or in this case the burning shredded version. This is a Torg shotgun. Now, in truth, I'm not entirely sure whether this is working as intended right now. Basically, behavior-wise, it's just an explosive shotgun. It fires out this large spread of shells, they explode on impact, and the red text does say a gaping hole in the sky, which kind of implies that something should potentially come raining down from the sky. It doesn't actually do that in action, so not entirely sure whether this is working as intended, or whether perhaps it's just like a, fancy flavor text, but either way, this just appears to be a hefty explosive shotgun. I do think it might work quite well with, say, like one of Moses' explosive builds. I haven't personally been getting too much great mileage with it out of flak, but I do think if you were kind of geared more towards explosives, specifically Moes, then you could potentially get some mileage out of this. Of course, if you guys happen to have got a different version, or you've seen this working in a different capacity, by all means let me know in the comments down below, but largely speaking, this is just a high explosive shotgun. And the fourth weapon is, of course, the Redistributor. This can come in various different forms. I have a corrosive version. I also have a shock version. I actually tend to run, especially in the Maliwan Takedown, I actually carry both of them. I colour them differently so I can tell which one is which. But I run with this because, you know, corrosive is great for ripping through armour, and of course shock is great for ripping through shields, so I tend to swap between them to take out, you know, large groups of enemies. Because the main perk on this one is that, of course, when you fire an enemy or when you shoot at an enemy, every 7th shot is amped, and the amped shots will chain between nearby enemies. It's a Hyperion SMG, of course you do have that shield, but being an SMG, being a fast-firing weapon, that 7th shot comes around pretty quickly, pretty frequently, so you can effectively fire this into a group of enemies and have that damage distributed between multiple enemies for what is otherwise a single target weapon. So pretty nice, pretty potent, again does some decent damage, and especially if you pair the element, I would say this is definitely one more so for elemental use versus say just straight bullet damage, but either way, pair this up with the right matchups and you can get some great mileage out of this. So those are your 4 weapons. But moving on from there, we then have 4 shields. You have the version 0.M. This again can of course come in various different configurations, as do many items, or most items in Borderlands. I have actually 3 different versions of this. I have the base version 0.M, I have the improved version 0.M, and I even have the Nova version 0.M. But effectively what this does, it says stand and clap. This works in 2 ways. When your shield is maxed out, your next shot is actually amped. So you can see this when you stand still, and your shield maxes out, you then get the glow at the end of your gun to imply that next shot is going to be amped. But additionally, if your shield breaks, you drop down another red circle, kind of akin to Kib's Worth, only instead of healing, this is basically like an amped circle, and it appears that the next shot or so is also amped. So basically it's kind of a good means to do some additional damage. Kind of handy if you happen to go down as well. If you go into sort of like a last stand state, your shield gets broken, you crawl into that circle, you can do a little bit more damage, and it kind of helps sort of, you know, killing the enemy and getting you back up. You then have the Frozen Snowshoe, in this case the high caliber Frozen Snowshoe. This one happens to have a Terrified Anointed bonus, but the main perk on this one, it says given the cold Tolder, so obviously that's a toe/shoulder. Basically, sliding into enemies, it drains all your shields and it deals up to 5,949 bonus cryo damage based on the current shield strength, and 30% of the Nova is returned as health. So you sacrifice your shield upon sliding, but it dishes out this big Cryo Nova, which a lot of the time will actually freeze enemies, and you can of course also get that back as health. So if you happen to, you know, be a little bit low on health, you can use this as kind of like a recovery method, but mainly it's just kind of cool to slide into enemies, freeze them, and it kind of gives you a decent opening. Is it necessarily the best shield? Probably not right now, but either way, it is still rather interesting and fun to mess around with. You then have the Recharge Burner. This one is the Quick Charge Recharge Burner. This one says Feeling the Burn. The main perk on this one is that you basically kick out this big damage Nova, 16,000 damage, 16,730 in this case, on both shield break and shield fill. So we've seen this before where like if your shield breaks, you kick out this big explosive Nova, but this time it works both ways. So basically you run around, your shield breaks, you kick out this big damage Nova, you take out some enemies, then when your shield refills, the second it hits max, it also dishes out that same damage. So you can basically use this on both ends of the spectrum. You can use it to both be aggressive and defensive, and just in general, it's pretty nice to mess around with. Now the final one is the only one that I don't quite have myself just yet, but that is the Red Card Recharger, and it works in a very similar way to the Snowshoe, only instead of, say, having the cryo damage, effectively sliding into enemies will still drain your shields, but it will also instantly begin recharging when broken. It does of course have a cooldown of 20 seconds, so if that break happens too frequently, you won't obviously get that back to back, but basically it allows you to slide, use that to dish out some damage, instantly start recharging your shield, and repeat that cycle. So, there you have it. That's a quick look at the 8 items that are exclusively tied to the Maliwan Takedown. The weapons typically come specifically from Wotan, meanwhile the shields can come from both Wotan and also the Valkyrie squad. So if you want to farm these, you don't have to be on Mayhem 4, you can do this on Mayhem 3. That's how we've been doing a lot of farming so far, specifically for these items, because of course Mayhem 4 has its own dedicated loot pool. But that's a look at the weapons. Let me know in the comments down below if you guys have got any of these. Let me know if you are using any of them in your loadouts. Let me know what your favourite ones are. And of course, be sure to keep it locked for plenty more Borderlands content. I really hope you guys enjoyed that video. Remember to hit that subscribe button and also click on the little bell icon to turn on notifications so you don't miss my next upload. Also, don't forget you can check out 269 and Paradise Central streaming over on Twitch 6 days a week. You can find a link to the multi-stream in the description box down below. Be sure to drop by and get involved. Thanks again for watching. Take it easy. Catch you next time. Peace out.